There are places in history that even the gods forgot to bless, places where prayers reeked of blood, and purity was just another word for sacrifice. Ancient Egypt had many such sanctuaries, but none darker than the house of Aset, hidden deep within the city of Thebes, where the priests of the goddess Isis ruled not by mercy but by ritual. They called them the chosen of the moon. Dozens of young girls taken from noble families before their 15th year were promised to the goddess, sealed away to live untouched, untouched by man, untouched by time. Their families offered them willingly, believing they were giving their daughters to the divine, but in truth they were giving them to the dark heart of men. The ritual began at dusk. The air was thick with incense, and the temple echoed with chants older than the pyramids themselves. The priests wore masks of gold and onyx, their faces hidden, for no mortal was pure enough to look upon the wives of the goddess. To the people outside, the ceremony was holy. Inside, it was something else entirely. The chosen virgins were brought into a chamber they called the Hall of Ascension. The walls were lined with hieroglyphs depicting the goddess embracing the sun, symbols of rebirth, purity, and eternal devotion. But beneath those sacred carvings was another language, one that only the high priests could read. It spoke of the offering of the body, a ritual never written in official texts, a ritual meant to ensure that the goddess's favor remained with Egypt. It was said the goddess demanded not their deaths, but their innocence. The priests twisted that belief into something far worse. Under the flickering torchlight, the virgins were bathed, perfumed, and adorned in linen so thin it shimmered like water. They were told that the goddess would enter their bodies, that their pain would be her pleasure, their tears her blessing. And when the chanting reached its peak, the masks leaned closer. The gods made flesh, they claimed, and the sanctity of the temple turned into a scene the sun refused to witness. Each dawn the Nile carried away a new offering, bodies wrapped in silence, buried beneath the current with prayers whispered over them. Their families were told the girls had ascended, that they had become one with the goddess. But there were whispers among the temple slaves, whispers that some girls still breathed when the river claimed them, whispers that their cries could be heard in the wind on certain nights, a chorus of lost souls, bound to the water they were thrown into. The Nile, they said, remembers everything. It was not until the reign of Pharaoh Amenhotep III that the corruption began to crack. A scribe named Menura, young and ambitious, was appointed to record the rituals of the house of Aset. He was devout at first, proud to serve the priests, but as he transcribed the hymns and watched the ceremonies unfold, his faith began to rot from within. Menura noticed things. The priests grew fat while the temple's offerings vanished. The high priest never left the inner sanctum, except when new virgins arrived. And at night, Menura would hear footsteps, bare, soft, frightened, echoing through the stone halls, followed by prayers that ended in screams. He tried to look away, but one night, fate forced his hand. A girl of no older than 14 fled into the courtyard, her white robes torn, her hair streaked with the sacred oils. She collapsed at Menura's feet, whispering the same word again and again. Please. Behind her, 2 masked priests followed in silence. They said she had been touched by the goddess and was now unclean. They dragged her away into the darkness, and Menura never saw her again. The next morning, the Nile was red. That night, Menura began to write a different kind of text. Not a hymn, not a prayer, but a confession. He described everything he had seen, every ritual, every lie. He wrote of the purification rite, how the priests defiled the chosen, then drowned them to wash away their sin. He hid his scroll beneath the floor of his chamber, sealing it with wax and a prayer that one day the truth would be known. But the gods of Egypt were not kind to those who sought the truth. Within a week, Menura fell ill. His skin burned as if by unseen fire. The priests called it divine punishment. He called it justice. Before he died, he whispered to a temple servant, "The goddess we serve is not Isis, it is hunger, it is man." The servant fled that same night. She carried the scroll with her, hidden beneath her robes. No one ever saw her again. Centuries passed. Dynasties rose and fell. The temple of Isis crumbled, swallowed by the sand. but the legend of the Virgins of the Sun endured. Travelers claimed to see pale figures walking the riverbanks under the full moon, women with veiled faces, their feet never touching the ground. They said the Nile glows faintly red when the goddess is displeased, and those who dare to draw water under her gaze sometimes never come back up. Archaeologists uncovered fragments of the House of Aset in the 19th century. Shattered tablets, a golden mask, and a stone basin stained darker than time itself. But the scroll of Menura was never found. Still, a few lines from his confession survived, etched onto a piece of limestone found near the temple ruins. The last words he ever wrote: "The goddess does not speak. The goddess does not weep. The goddess only watches, and men do her will." Even now the Nile keeps its silence, but on certain nights when the wind moves like a whisper and the water runs slow, locals swear they can hear faint singing from beneath the surface. Voices young and trembling, repeating a single phrase: "We were chosen, we were loved, we were forgotten." Centuries later, the sands still whispered their names. Long after the House of Aset had been buried beneath the desert, the story of the Virgins of the Sun lingered in the corners of Egyptian memory, not as history, but as warning. It was said that those who built their homes near the ruins heard voices at night, women weeping, water moving where no river flowed. The temple had vanished beneath a dune locals called the Hill of 1,000 Mothers. Nothing grew there. Not a blade of grass, not a single weed. And yet, sometimes, the sand pulsed, as if something beneath it still breathed. It was during the reign of the Ptolemies, long after the old gods had fallen silent, that the curse began to stir again. A Greek scholar named Callisthenes of Rhodes came to Egypt in search of forgotten knowledge. He had heard the local priests in Thebes speak of an ancient temple built for Isis that no one dared enter. He laughed at their superstition. He was a man of reason, a collector of lost histories, not ghost stories. He found the ruins within a week. They stood half buried beneath the sand, pillars carved with fading symbols, the eye of Horus, the moon of Isis, and the image of women kneeling before a veiled goddess. Inside, the air was dry and heavy, like the inside of a tomb, and at the heart of it all was a chamber carved from black granite, the same chamber Menura once called the Hall of Ascension. Callisthenes brought torches, servants, and scribes. He began to excavate. For 3 days they uncovered nothing but bones, hundreds of them, small, frail, feminine. Some still had fragments of linen around their necks, twisted like rope. He recorded them carefully, believing he had found a burial ground for priestesses. But on the 4th day, his torchlight revealed something that froze his blood. A wall covered in hieroglyphs, but unlike any he had seen before. The writing was wrong, curved in strange, uneven strokes, as though written by trembling hands. It told no prayers, no praises, only a single message repeated again and again in different forms. The goddess watches. We were her gift. The Nile remembers. At the base of the wall was a sealed stone door. Callisthenes ordered it opened. It took 2 days to break through. Behind it was a staircase leading down, too narrow, too dark. The servants refused to follow, so he went alone. They say he was gone for hours. When he finally emerged, his hair had turned white, and his eyes refused to meet the sun. He ordered the chamber sealed that same night. Then, without a word, he boarded a ship back to Rhodes. On the voyage home, he refused food and sleep. His last entry in his journal read, "The goddess does not forgive. The river is her mouth. We are all drowning." He threw himself overboard 2 nights later. His body was never found. The story might have ended there, just another explorer lost to madness. But the curse had already begun to spread. Those who touched the relics from the House of Aset fell ill. Men went blind, women miscarried, and workers disappeared into the desert, their footprints ending abruptly in the sand. One witness, a priest from Memphis, described what he saw at dawn one morning. The ground beneath the ruins opened like breath, and the wind sang in voices that were not of this world. The locals began to call the place the mouth of Isis. They said it was where the goddess swallowed her sinners. But it wasn't just Egypt that felt her reach. In 1903, a British archaeologist named Dr. Henry Barlow unearthed a golden mask near Thebes. It was exquisite, a female face, serene and perfect, the eyes made of polished onyx. He believed it to be the death mask of an Isis priestess and shipped it to London for display. The day it arrived, the museum curator who opened the crate died of sudden cardiac arrest. His assistant swore she saw the mask's eyes blink. Within weeks, 3 more people connected to the artifact were dead. Barlow himself was found in his study, his body completely drained of blood, his face contorted in horror. Written on the wall in his own handwriting were 3 words: "She remembers me." The mask vanished that same night. The museum blamed thieves, but some say it was never stolen, it simply left. Over time, Egyptologists dismissed these tales as colonial exaggerations, superstition woven into science. Yet the old priests of Thebes never doubted. They said the goddess had cursed her servants for their crimes, binding their souls to the water, their voices to the wind. And that every few generations, when men tried to unearth what should have stayed buried, the virgins returned, not for vengeance, but for remembrance. In 1964, a diver exploring the Nile near Luxor found something extraordinary: a sealed stone coffin caught in the riverbed. When brought to the surface, the sarcophagus was marked with a single line of hieroglyphs. "I served her well." Inside was not a body, but a mask identical to Barlow's, eyes of onyx, lips of gold. The diver who opened it began to scream. He claimed to see faces moving beneath the surface of the water, dozens of them, staring upward from the depths. He drowned himself 3 days later. His wife said he spent his last night whispering a single phrase in his sleep: "The goddess is still waiting." Legends say that if you stand by the Nile at midnight and whisper the name Aset, the water will ripple even when there's no wind. And if you wait long enough, the reflection that looks back at you won't be your own. Some scholars today believe Menura East's story was real, that the virgin rituals were based on ancient fertility rites later corrupted by human greed. Others say it was all symbolic, a myth meant to warn against the abuse of sacred power. But there are still locals in Thebes who won't go near the river after sundown. They say the air becomes heavy, like incense, and if you listen carefully, you can hear singing the same hymn the virgins once sang before their final night. The lyrics have never been fully translated, but a fragment survives, carved into the base of an unearthed statue of Isis. "She who births the light must first swallow the dark. In her arms all sins are washed." Perhaps that is the truest version of the legend. Perhaps the goddess was not the monster, but the mirror, a reflection of human hunger, given divine permission. The temple may have been buried, the priests may have turned to dust, but the curse remains, not in the sand, not in the water, but in memory, in the way men still cloak cruelty in holiness, in the way purity is still demanded, offered, taken. And maybe that is the real punishment, not divine wrath, but remembrance. For in Egypt, the dead are only truly gone when their names are forgotten. And the house of Aset will never be forgotten, because the Nile still remembers, and on nights when the moon is full, and the wind moves across the water like a sigh, some say you can see them walking there, pale figures in linen robes, their eyes shining like onyx under